Hello, everyone. Welcome into episode 2 of the Polo Show. Make sure to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on those notifications so you can be notified when our newest episodes get released. Okay, we've got some good stuff to dive into today. Honestly, one of my favorite things about today's episodes, there's not really any huge national stuff. I'm not going to talk really about All-Star Weekend. We got the All-Star game later tonight. All-Star Saturday night was not very good. I don't even want to take time to go into that. It's going to be all 49ers and Warriors stuff today. And for the 49ers, we've got Tom Brady speculation. Will he come out of retirement? And if he does, what are the chances that he actually plays for the San Francisco 49ers? It would be a farewell tour at home. And I say at home because it's where he grew up. San Mateo is where he's from. His parents still live in the Bay Area. He grew up a 49ers fan. I'll tell you if I think it's realistic and my take on a possible Tom Brady coming out of retirement and playing for his hometown team. I'll tell you what I think in that aspect. And then we got Golden State Warriors stuff. Listen, they weren't doing so good before the All-Star break, and I'll talk about what needs to change going forward and where I think they're at right now and how they can get to a better spot so they can be contenders for a championship this year, because the way they looked recently, it's not looking good. They lost 4 of their last 5 going into the All-Star break, but I think they'll be okay. I'm just going to tell you my concerns going forward, okay? But let's go ahead and dive right into more 49ers offseason stuff. We've got speculation with Tom Brady. Will he come out of retirement? Okay. And I got to say, diving into this Tom Brady stuff already, I'm glad I get to talk about this again, because when he announced retirement, I thought that what I was thinking of before the divisional round of the playoffs might have been kind of crazy. And what I mean by that is, when the whispers came out about the fact that he actually may seriously consider retirement, not when he announced retirement, before they even played the Rams, there were reports saying that he may consider retirement. When that started happening, I started telling people this before it started to blow up into this like nationwide scale of, oh my gosh, is Tom Brady going to play for the Niners? And I'm tell you all what I mean. And I didn't do this on the last episode because I thought, no, he's retired. There's no way. But it just keeps buzzing even more. So I'm going to get to address this. But right before the divisional round, I was telling everyone that I knew. I was posting it on social media. The 49ers may end up with Tom Brady as their starting quarterback. Not only was I saying that Tom Brady may end up in San Francisco, I said if he plays next year, it will only be in San Francisco. And I'm going to explain all that right now, okay? When the whispers were coming out that he might retire, I wasn't buying it. You know, he was having a career season in terms of passing yards. He was having an MVP caliber season. He once said he wanted to play to the age 45 and then call it, right? And this next year, it would be that. It would be accomplishing that feat. And I was just looking at the situation. Antonio Brown lost his mind. Chris Godwin lost his knee. It wasn't his fault that everything imploded there. Listen, they came back, or Tom Brady brought them back in that game against the Rams with no Tristan Wirfs playing, by the way. He brought them back with a chance to go to overtime. What happened? Todd Bowles inexplicably calls a zero coverage blitz against the number 1 quarterback against the blitz in the NFL, against the Triple Crown receiver, Cooper Kupp. You allow him to get open with no safety help, no bracket. You're giving these guys, I mean, there's so many weapons there. You give any of them one-on-one, you're asking for trouble. To do it in that situation, to allow Matt Stafford to just throw up a backyard football toss of go run underneath it and get it, yeah, they're going to beat you. If Tom Brady got the ball again, like you saw overtime worked out with Buffalo and Kansas City, if you get to a coin toss and it just lands on whatever you call, you probably win the game if you have Tom Brady on your team. And I was sitting there like, you know what? It's because Tom Brady's so old, so much older. He's in the back end of his career, obviously, even though he's playing great. He doesn't have time to play for teams with dysfunction. He doesn't have time to play for teams with drama. He doesn't have time to play with teams that are building toward a championship. He needs to play for a team that is built to win now. And I was really thinking about it. And I was like, the Niners are the only team that makes sense for that. Seriously, it's not a bias thing. It's just if you're Tom Brady and you're in your 40s, what kind of team do you need to play with? And if you play, you're getting a Super Bowl. You're not playing for some bullshit like rebuild type thing where, oh, we're going to need like a whole draft. We have a ton of key free agents that we need to re-sign. You're not going to do that, right? And Chris Godwin, let's say Brady went back to Tampa Bay. Chris Godwin tore his ACL late in the year. He's not going to be available most of the season. You can't bank on that. Rob Gronkowski's also on his last leg. He only came back for Tom Brady, right? But let's go through this, okay? Let me explain to you why the 49ers are the only team that makes sense. I'm going to break this down. I was telling people this all the time. I don't think anyone's going to give you a better breakdown than me, to be honest, because no one paid attention to it like I was. I was probably patient zero in terms of speculating this whole situation. So it's crazy to me that it actually got bigger. Let's go through every division. I think that's the easiest way to do this, okay? The AFC East. Buffalo Bills, New England Patriots, Miami Dolphins, New York Jets. You're trying to win a Super Bowl, right? Okay. Buffalo Bills, they have Josh Allen. They're not getting Tom Brady. New England Patriots, that would be funny. But no, they've got Mac Jones, and Tom Brady is kind of over New England. We all saw that. He didn't even mention them in the retirement, 8-page essay on Instagram. Okay. Dolphins, no, not ready for a Super Bowl. Jets, come on. Chiefs in the AFC West now. We're going to the AFC West. I think my little chuckle was good enough for the Jets, right? AFC West, Chiefs, Raiders, Chargers, Broncos. The only team in here that could be a possibility is the Broncos. Or maybe the Raiders, actually, too. But I think they just had so much shit going on the last year. Do you really want to go to a situation like that? It's Vegas. That's all I can really say. It's appealing. It's Vegas. But Patrick Mahomes, you ain't going there. You ain't going to the Chiefs. The Raiders, not really a Super Bowl ready team. Why would you go to a division with Patrick Mahomes and also Justin Herbert, which is another reason why you wouldn't go to the Chargers? And the Broncos, like I said, and that's just because they don't really have a quarterback. But you're not going to go to a division with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, and they're not even a Super Bowl ready roster. Take out those two divisions. AFC North. You ain't replacing Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, that could be cool. That could be cool. Another thing you have to realize is why none of these AFC teams would make sense. It's because the AFC is so loaded with quarterbacks. I mean, I was talking about this last week too. You got Josh Allen. You've got you got Mac Jones coming up. I know he's not like an elite quarterback, but he's coached by a great elite coach. And then you got Patrick Mahomes, and you got Justin Herbert, and Derek Carr's no scrub, and Joe Burrow just made it to a Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson's still out there if they can fix that roster, right? You got some good quarterbacks out there. Why would you go through a quarterback gauntlet, right? So AFC North, Bengals, you're not going there. Joe Burrow's there. Steelers, you're not going there. It's a loaded conference. Cleveland, come on. Really? Baltimore, they have an MVP. AFC South, Titans. That's the only possibility I could ever see in the AFC, actually. In the whole conference, the only possibility. But why would you go through that gauntlet, right? You're not going to do that. You're going to go to some place where it feels a lot more wide open. Okay? The Colts, no. Texans, no. Jaguars, seriously. You're not going to do that. It's only going to be an NFC team because it's a lot more wide open. Okay? You're going to have a throwaway. I don't want to say throwaway, but the NFC East, come on. The Eagles, you wouldn't go there. You wouldn't go to Washington. You wouldn't go to the Giants. The Cowboys have Dak. Take out that whole division. The NFC North. The Packers to replace Aaron Rodgers? I don't think so. I don't think so because they're in a huge cap issue. And the Devontae Adams is also a free agent. No way in hell. Minnesota Vikings. That would be cool. That would be cool. Don't have a defense, though. It's a problem. Chicago Bears, not ready. Lions. I don't have to say anything about that, really. It's kind of like the Jets. Tampa Bay, why would you go back there? Chris Godwin's hurt. Antonio Brown's going to be gone. Gronk is probably going to retire. You can't run it all back with the 22 starters like you did after the Super Bowl win. It's a different offseason. You're in a different situation. Things are kind of going south. You're not going to bank on that. New Orleans, huge cap issues. Sean Payton stepped away. Atlanta Falcons, no. Carolina Panthers, no. Best player on the field for them is always hurt. And I know it hurts because I have him in a dynasty fantasy football league, and that is very painful. Christian McCaffrey, please stay healthy. So it leaves you one division in all football that Tom Brady could play for. The Seattle Seahawks? No. No. They tried to mimic the Rams. They traded those picks for Jamal Adams. They may even move on from Russell Wilson. That's not a situation you want to go to. The Arizona Cardinals have Kyler Murray. There's some drama there, but why would they? You would have to trade away Kyler Murray for that. They won't do that. The LA Rams, you're not going there. They just won with Stafford. The one team that makes sense is San Francisco. Why? They have a quarterback who they're moving on from. They have a running game. They have the best offensive lineman in football, Trent Williams. You have players like Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, who are great playmakers. You put the ball in their hands. You don't have to throw the ball 50 yards down the field. You could give Deebo Samuel a screen pass, and he'll take that shit 83 yards to the house. You've got an elite defense. Nick Bosa. You have Fred Warner back there. You've got Eric Armstead, Jimmy Ward. Maybe they bring back Jaquiski Tart. I think they should. You've got talent on that team. You've got 5 guys in the top 101 players on Pro Football Focus. 2 of them in the top 8. With Kyle Shanahan as the head coach. You see, this is a team that is so talented on both sides of the football. Every other team in the league with a spot for a quarterback doesn't have that, but the San Francisco 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo got this team to an NFC title game, played horrible in the playoffs, and had 3 injuries to his throwing arm, and they were still 1 possession away from going to the Super Bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo could have played like normal Jimmy in that Super Bowl. Could you imagine that offensive line in the Super Bowl with Nick Bosa and Eric Armstead and Fred Warner? And that would be a nightmare for the Bengals. Take the 49ers all season. What was the problem? The problem, it was a multitude of things. You had injuries. You had Brandon Ayuk and Kyle Shanahan not being on the same page for the first handful of weeks. But what was the main issue? The main issue was your quarterback play was mediocre at best. It was average. So it's not like it was so horribly bad. It's just every other aspect of your team is so good that is the one spot that's not so good. So teams want to expose that, right? They want to make you throw the ball. That's what the Rams did. Make the Niners throw the ball if they're going to beat us. And that's what they did. They made Jimmy Garoppolo throw the ball. They put the game in his hands. And they came up short. And yet they were so damn close. But they came up short. Replace Jimmy Garoppolo with Tom Brady that whole season. What do you think happens? You take Tom Brady, you put him on a team with Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and Elijah Mitchell and maybe a healthy Raheem Mostert. We'll see what they do with him. Trent Williams protecting his blind side. And an elite defense that's going to hold Aaron Rodgers, who's the MVP, and the Green Bay Packers to 10 points in Lambeau Field in a playoff game. You put Tom Brady on a team like that, what the hell do you think is going to happen? You're winning the damn Super Bowl. I don't care what anyone tells me. You're winning a Super Bowl when you have Tom Brady on a team that is elite on both ends and has talented players like Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. You can't lose that if you stay healthy. There's no way. Okay, I don't want to say there's no way because in football, any given Sunday, you really don't know. If you went 10-7 with Jimmy Garoppolo, though, you put Tom Brady out there who just threw for 5,300 yards or however many yards he threw. Seriously? This is the only team that makes sense. So I was sitting there around the divisional round, and my mindset the whole time was he's either going to truly retire or he is going to the Niners. And I thought he was going to sit and watch how the Niners fared the whole time. I thought it was going to be similar to Kevin Durant, where with Kevin Durant, he wouldn't leave Oklahoma City if Golden State won the title in 2016. He wasn't going to do that. But the fact that they lost made it valid because it's a difference from I'm straight up jumping on these guys who just won a championship. It makes the change from that to I'm the missing piece. And I thought it was a very similar thing with Tom Brady and the possibility of him going to the Niners. He would be the missing piece, right? It wouldn't be stacking on the deck. He would be the missing piece for this team. And I thought maybe if they win, there's no way he just retires, walks off into the sunset with 7 rings. So when he announced retirement, I was actually shocked. But I still didn't buy it because I was looking at Tom Brady losing that game, and I was like, there's no way the greatest of all time, as great a competitor as he is, he's really satisfied with walking away from the game like that because his defense, for some reason, went 0 coverage blitz in a game that he stormed all the way back 24 points down. He's ready to just walk off just like that. I didn't buy it. I really didn't buy it. And a weekend goes by, and he's jumping on podcasts talking about he will never say never to a return. Said he's happy with his decision now, but he doesn't know how he would feel 6 months from now. It took 1 weekend for this man to rethink family time. Like, that's really what happened when we really look at it. Because in his essay that he wrote, it's not really an essay, I don't know what to call it, but on his Instagram post when he announced retirement, he was talking about how he's not 100% committed to the game. And therefore, if he's not 100%, he won't play. That means you're not 100% out either. You know what I'm saying? That also means you're not 100% out, and there's a huge part of you that wants to play. Don't know what percent of you, but it's just not 100. That can change. That can change if the right opportunity presents itself. Obviously, Tampa Bay, it's not really an attractive spot. I thought the retirement decision came more from what was going on in Tampa Bay more than it had to do anything about football. Because he just played elite. I remember Tom Brady one time in an interview saying he wanted to play until he sucked. Dude just threw for over 5,000 passing yards. Does not suck. And if he wants 1 year in San Francisco, you got to give it to him. And that's my take. And this is where it gets very divisive. A lot of 49er fans really hate the idea of having to sit Trey Lance 1 more season. All season, the whole toxic thing with 49er fans has been you have a majority of them, or not majority, it's really half and half, crying for Trey Lance every single week, even in games that they win. And then you have the other half that's like, no, let him sit and learn. Let Jimmy play. And then you just have these two heads going at each other, talking about the player they like more. And it's not even being a fan of the team anymore. It's just you're a fan of players. You're getting attached to players, right? If Tom Brady is there, you understand that he gives you the best chance possible, okay? With little Aaron Rodgers speculation that has come about and people saying Aaron Rodgers should play for the Niners, that I would not do. The reason I would not do that is because I do really want to see Trey Lance play. I'm really, really excited to see Trey Lance play. Did you guys see those practice tapes that got leaked? I'm really excited to see Trey Lance after a whole offseason of working on those mechanics. But Rodgers would be like a 2 to 3 year thing. I wouldn't do that. Whereas Tom Brady would be a 1 year thing. Okay. But Tom Brady gives you the best chance to win right now. Okay. He's started 20 seasons in this league. He started in 10 Super Bowls. He won 7 of those Super Bowls. He has over 3,000 passing yards alone in Super Bowls. That's ridiculous. And the part that was making me so irritated by Niner fans, the stuff that made me really sick, is people really saying that Tom Brady should not come here and it doesn't matter, prioritize the future. How many times can you prioritize the future and sacrifice potential Super Bowls with all this talent on your roster. You understand the talent's going to deplete in a few years. You're going to be paying these players big salaries. Debo's on a rookie deal. Nick Bosa's on a rookie deal. Trey Lance is on a rookie deal. Kinlaw is on a rookie deal. You just paid Warner. You just paid Kittle. You just paid Trent Williams for the long term. Trent Williams is 34 years old. He doesn't have 5 years to build with a quarterback. Maybe he'll still be good at 39, but he's 34. What are we talking about here? And stacking up draft picks and just trading Jimmy G to just get draft picks. What are you going to do with those picks? Part of the point of having draft picks and draft capital is to use it as trade assets. Yes, it's not crazy. Like I was talking to people and they're like, no, they'd have to give up draft picks to get Tom Brady. We gave up a second rounder to get Jimmy. What's the difference? The difference is one of them statistically gives you a 50% chance to win the Super Bowl. Or sorry, get to a Super Bowl. Okay? And what's really aggravating is I'm tired of going to conference title games and seeing this team lose. It's not just that they lose, it's that every time they lose to the eventual Super Bowl champion. When they lost in 2011 with Harbaugh, I was at majority of these games, but if they were at home, I was probably at these games, by the way. When they lost in 2011 at home against the Giants went to the Super Bowl and won. When that happens, it feels like it's your trophy. Fast forward another year, you go to the Super Bowl. It's Kaepernick, it's the Harbaugh Bowl, right? You lose on the final possession, and the Ravens are Super Bowl champions. Next year, you're playing in Seattle, NFC title game. Your third straight. Wow, consistency. Consistency in losing, because you lost there in one possession too. And guess who won the Super Bowl? Not only did they win the Super Bowl, they smacked the hell out of the Broncos 43-8. I don't even remember if that was actually the final score. I'm pretty confident that was the final score. It was boring. It was ridiculous. Then you kind of go into the mud a little bit. You're hitting the lowest of lows as an organization. Okay, Kyle Shanahan in town, Jimmy G in town, let's go. Right? You get to a Super Bowl in 2019. You have a 10-point lead in that Super Bowl, and you lost. And you went scoreless in that fourth quarter. And the Chiefs are Super Bowl champions. And then this year, NFC title game in LA against a team you were so high on because so happy to face because you beat 6 times in a row and your fans show up at the stadium. Yeah, well, you lost to them by 1 possession. And you went scoreless in the fourth quarter. And they went to the Super Bowl and won. You want to keep building draft picks? Because the difference between Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay's mindsets that people need to realize is Sean McVay, he traded those picks. Him and Les Snead, they got rid of those picks. They got Jalen Ramsey. They got Von Miller. They got Matt Stafford. And it's not like, and whenever I bring that up to people and I say, like, I don't think we should go to the extent that the Rams do maybe because it's really hard to replicate, but we should be more aggressive. We should try to do a little bit of that when we can. And when people say, no, the Rams are going to implode, give them 2 to 3 years, their team is done. They were in the Super Bowl in 2018 with a completely different looking roster with the same philosophy. They didn't, for that Super Bowl they went to against New England, they didn't draft Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters and then Ndamukong Suh and Brandon Cooks and Sammy Watkins. They didn't draft those guys. They got there a few years later with the same philosophy. They just had to upgrade the quarterback. That was it. Jared Goff was holding them back for a few years. After that Super Bowl, they realized after a few years, yep, let's move on. Let's go all in, get Matt Stafford. Okay. The difference between the two, and in terms of the mindsets, is the Rams are willing to make that move to go win a Super Bowl. Brady, if he wants to come here, that's a move that wins you a Super Bowl. Why in sake hell would you not do that? You realize quarterbacks want to come here to San Francisco? After 2019 season, Tom Brady wanted to come to San Francisco, told Wes Welker it wouldn't even be a bidding war. There would be no free agency tour. It's a hometown farewell, few years. Go get a Super Bowl or two. Let your parents drive to the games. The place where the love for the game began for you. The next year, after they passed on that, Aaron Rodgers was telling Green Bay he didn't want to play there. Guess where he wanted to play, according to Adam Schefter? He wanted to go to San Francisco. And supposedly there was some sort of beef between Kyle Shanahan and Matt LaFleur because they actually did try to call about Aaron Rodgers. That one was never going to happen. Green Bay, I don't see ever giving him up unless Aaron Rodgers says, look, I'm literally not going to suit up for you guys, so you need to trade me or I will retire. I don't see that happening. I don't see him going anywhere until he says something like that to them. But then Matt Stafford comes around. 3 locations Matt Stafford listed as top 3 spots that he would go to. Rams 1, Niners 2, Colts 3. What was the difference between the Niners and the Rams? I know that Sean McVay and Matt Stafford really vibe together. But that also just tells me, as a recruiter, Kyle Shanahan, can't you do a little more? Can't you try a little harder? I don't think he wanted to try a little harder is the difference. I don't think he really wanted to go after a Matt Stafford and give things up. I don't really know what the Lions asked for in that instance, but the Niners never made an offer. The report actually from Albert Breer is that the price range Detroit was asking for was out of the Niners' liking. They didn't want to get into a bidding war with LA. And to not even make an offer just shows me you weren't really serious about getting him. You act like, oh yeah, we wanted to get him. But I feel like you didn't want to get him. You wanted to run it back with your boy. You wanted to run it back with Jimmy Garoppolo. You do. I mean, Kyle Shanahan shows that. Like anyone that he's ever had as a player, he just needs to keep bringing them back because he sticks to what he knows. Mohamed Sanu, for instance, right? He brought Aldrick Robinson to town when he first got here. Tevin Coleman. Like you're bringing in guys that like you didn't want to go after Matt Stafford. Yeah, you would have taken him, but you didn't want to really give up what it took to get him. Right? And if you look at Les Snead's shirt at the parade, he's wearing a shirt that says, what did it say? 3 words. Fuck them picks. The draft picks. They're in a parade wearing shirts like that. What do we have in San Francisco? Draft capital. While they have a Super Bowl trophy. That they beat us to get. That would be my mindset. Like something needs to change. And so I'm saying the Tom Brady thing isn't even like a for sure thing. It's not like he's come out and said, hey, I'm out of retirement. I want to play in San Francisco. But I'm saying if it were to happen, the fact that people really think that that's a bad thing is really crazy. It's borderline insane to think that. I just don't know what to tell you. Your title window's now. What are you stacking all these picks up for if you can go make a move like this? And this should be their mindset going into free agency. It should be their mindset going into the draft. It should be their mindset when trying to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. Think about whatever you get in return and how you could use that to flip that for something else. Like the idea of getting Von Miller on like a 2-year deal. That would be better to me than going just trying to re-sign as many guys as you can. Keep a few key guys that you don't have contingencies for, and go get someone that's going to make a big splash, that's going to make an impact, right? The thing is, the dilemma is, can you let Trey Lance sit? And I know some of you might be thinking like, well, why the hell would you sit Trey Lance? Listen, Tom Brady's not a bridge quarterback. He's an MVP caliber quarterback who can win you a Super Bowl still. Trey Lance is 21, man. When you graduate college, you're usually 22. He's 21. That's like the age of a typical rookie that's just getting drafted. You can afford to sit him one more year. Justin Fields and Mac Jones, I think, right now are 23. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson are probably both 22 right now. Trey Lance's youth is a luxury. You can sit him another year. I would just only do it if it was to sit him behind Tom Brady. And also, you get to, if you learn from Jimmy Garoppolo The hell you think he's going to learn from sitting behind the greatest of all time who's been to 10 Super Bowls? Okay? And people getting all defensive about, oh, well, no, Trey Lance has to play. Or, just anyone in general on the team, just all of that. And I see a lot of negative bias toward or against Tom Brady. And it's that Tom Brady hate. You got people that are still saying, no, Joe Montana's still the greatest. I just want to put this out there. If you are a fan, okay, there's a difference between being fans of players and fans of teams. You can't get too attached to these players because then you can't call it for what it is anymore. You have to take a step back and just think how the roster can be as good as possible and objectively analyze players if you want what's best for the team, right? Like I've been in some good Twitter spaces recently with people from Niners Nation, and it's been good. It's been good. Like sometimes it gives me a check. Like, man, I really shouldn't stay too attached to some of these free agents that I want to bring back. And now I'm fully on board. We should let Laken Tomlinson go. We should let DJ Jones go. Like you just look at where your players are at on this roster and who is worth bringing back. Like, no, like I love those guys, but they got to go. There is a cap space, and I want to use that to get something better. We have contingencies for those players, I think, and even if Tom Brady were 75% of what he was, let's say this next year, if he played, he's 75% of what he was this season, you still win with this crew if they're healthy. You have Lance for the long haul, man. You've got like a whole decade plus of a career to build with Trey Lance. The only guy I'd put him behind for one more year is Tom. You don't pass on the GOAT 2 different times. You don't label Tom Brady as like a second bridge quarterback. It's different. There's levels to this. Tom Brady he's been to 10 Super Bowls. Who do you think gives you a better chance? I love Trey Lance. I can't wait to see him play. And I keep getting called a Trey Lance hater for this. I can't comprehend how someone who's so inexperienced, barely played college football, would give the 49ers a better chance to win a Super Bowl than Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time. How does that make sense? No one can make that make sense. Oh, well, his arm talent, his mobility. Do you watch tape? Do you box score watch? I hate it when people bring up that damn Texans game. In the Texans game, in the first half, he should have had 2 interceptions. An interception was actually dropped. It went through a DB's hands toward the end of the half and landed in Brandon Ayuk's hands on the sideline. Good concentration to catch that football. His timing was off. His timing was way off on the first interception he threw, the one he did throw in that game. 10 quarters this guy played, I think, if I can remember correctly. I know he did play in Seattle. He had, it was 10 quarters. It's 10 quarters he played. In 8 of those quarters, what did they do? What did he do in like 8 of those quarters? I mean, in the Cardinals game, you scored 10 points the whole game. And I was there. I was there in person. And I was really excited. I was like, oh my gosh, this is Trey Lance's first start. I get to go. Like that's awesome. Because I had those tickets like the week prior. And I was like, Trey Lance is starting this Sunday. Let's go. He made those first couple plays. And then the whole game kept going. And I was like, oh my God, this offense can't move the ball. They can't. And then I saw the tape on it. The interception he threw to Travis Benjamin. Ball should have been out when he was in the pocket. And Travis Benjamin was really wide open. He leaves the pocket prematurely, trying to extend a play that didn't need to be extended. And because of that, ends up throwing off platform, off balanced. And he has the arm talent to do it. But because of it, it was later than it should have been, but also you sailed the ball over Travis Benjamin's head in the middle of the field. You can't do that. That's stuff that's got to tighten up. It's having that pocket awareness, not locking onto your first read, making sure you're seeing the field. Kyle Shanahan's offense is very scripted out. If you go off script too much when it's not necessary, it fucks the whole flow. That's the problem. That's why Jimmy Garoppolo played. Yeah, talent wise, Trey Lance is on a whole other level. But Kyle Shanahan wants to win by scheme. And if you mess up that script, then it affects what he's doing as a coach and a play caller. And same for Mike McDaniel. It's not how they want to win. I think Kyle Shanahan needs to be a little more open to that, figure that out. But the windup is also a little too slow. You don't need as big a windup as he has. You notice that the ball almost looks like it comes below his elbow when he's winding up to throw the ball. It's inconsistent. Sometimes it's quick and tight. Sometimes it's really just prolonged for no reason. Makes it easier to read the throw and also makes you more susceptible to getting stripped. You know, those strip sacks where those defensive ends, they beat one of your outside tackles and then they just swipe that hand down and go for that arm and you fumble. Like, it makes you more susceptible to that. You got to keep that thing in tight. These are simple things that people don't really see by looking at box scores. Okay? Trey Lance did have a good second half against Houston. It was also Houston. And that, to me, is not enough to say, oh, yeah, this guy gives us a better chance than Tom Brady. No way. Not a chance. I think Trey's going to be very good. I think he will be a superstar. I do. I think the arm talent, the way he's mobile, the fact that he can drive the ball down the field from any angle, get the ball off from anywhere, the fact that he can run the football, I think he's going to turn into like a Deshaun Watson type quarterback if he reaches his potential. But that's in the future. We're talking future again. This is your best year to win a title. Deebo Samuel, Nick Bosa are not going to make their new contracts yet. You still have Warner. You still have Kittle. You still have Trent. The NFC's wide open. This is your time. If you can add Tom Brady, you take him for 1 year. Trey Lance will still be just like 23, I think, when he comes in as a starter. That is how old Justin Fields and Mac Jones are right now. What is the problem with that? I don't understand. And that's why I want to talk about this for a while, because like, what are your guys' thoughts on that if you're a Niners fan? Or just in general, if you're a football fan, just tuning in. And you hear all this stuff going on with Tom Brady, and you're hearing like Niner fans say, no, Trey Lance gives you better opportunity. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Because I don't get how someone who hasn't played in a few years can elevate you all the way to a Super Bowl. I don't see that. I think you can definitely get them to playoffs, but I mean, to win a Super Bowl, you might have to go up against a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen. Like, don't you want a guy who's been there? Don't you want a guy who knows what that moment's about? Who can also lead the rest of the guys in the huddle and in the locker room to be ready for that moment? Instead of tweeting shit about Levi's South going into an NFC title game. I hated that, by the way. I hated that. I hated that players in the Niners. That, to me, was my first red flag. Like, they're going to lose this game because they're not focused on the task at hand. They're focused on the meme of the fact that their fans show up and the Rams have no fans and what happened in Week 18. They're focused on the past. They're not focused on the game. You can tell. It's a mindset thing. It sounds like really ridiculous and little, but it matters. You need a presence in the locker room. Trey Lance is very young, right? He can become the leader. I'm not saying he can't become that leader, but you have a better chance of Tom. I shouldn't even have to say it this much, but the fact that it feels like half of this fan base doesn't believe in that is just ridiculous to me. It's ridiculous to me. Now, I don't think it will happen because I haven't heard anything about, oh yeah, like he's been working on this to come back. I haven't heard anything about that. I do believe, though, he's not done with football. That doesn't mean he may come back to play, though. Maybe he takes a job in TV. You know what I mean? I think that would be awesome to see Tom Brady be involved with the broadcast and stuff like that. But I don't think he's done. I think there is something more. And I think if he does come back, we actually just won't find out until June. And the reason that we won't find out until June is because I believe right now, if the Rams were to trade Tom Brady before June 1st, they would have to take on the whole $32 million salary cap hit. It gets reduced after June 1st, I believe, if they trade him. So I don't think we'll actually know until we get to the summertime. So that's what I'm saying. I think Tom Brady might be sitting back looking at one team, the 49ers, and he's sitting there thinking, please give me an excuse to come back. Let me see what you do in free agency. Let me see what you do in the draft. Let me see what you do with the stuff you get back in return for Jimmy. I think he's sitting there thinking to himself, give me a reason to be 100% all in on playing this year. Give me a reason to have that drive to go win a Super Bowl again. I think that's all he's looking for right now. And it's just a matter of, does he get that feeling again? It's the only team he'd play for. Now, supposedly there's some sort of grudge that him and his family have against the Niners. I don't believe that shit. I do believe he feels slighted by being declined or by being rejected, passed on for Jimmy G. But if he wanted one more year and he knew like it was his last shot and it was San Francisco and Jimmy was already off the roster, I think all that shit goes out the door. So I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'm saying to you, if the opportunity arises, you can't pass on that. I wouldn't go after Aaron Rodgers, saying really controversial things off the field. I don't even know that he can get it done because he's had good teams in Green Bay a lot and just can't get it done. Tom Brady can get it done. And it would be 1 year. That's the difference. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are on that. A lot of you guys have me on social media. Let me know. But let's go into some Warriors stuff and dive into Golden State for the first time on this podcast. Now, I feel very confident when I talk about the Warriors because I've watched them a lot. People that know me know I probably watched them too much and probably missed some important things in my life, some important tasks to make sure that I'm able to see their games. But the biggest problem to me going into the break, it's not just that they were losing games. They lost 4 of the last 5. In their last 6 games, they shot below 40% from the three-point line. It's not that they're losing. It's the way they're losing. They get these leads in these games and just collapse. The Utah game was like close the whole time, and now you're losing by like 20 points all of a sudden. Like, what the hell's going on here? And this is a team you might have to play in the playoffs. Not worried about Utah in the playoffs when the Warriors go head-to-head with them, but it's just not a good habit you want to get into. You don't want to build bad habits going into the playoffs because you're past the halfway point. You're in the All-Star break right now. All-Star game is tonight, at least at the time that I'm recording this. And if you go into the post-All-Star break portion of the regular season with those same habits, that's a problem because now you've developed a pattern. I get it. Draymond Green's out, so, they're going to be worse. Sure. But these same role players that are missing these shots need to hit those shots in April and May. That's the difference in these games is which team's role players, which team's benches show up. Because if you're not making those shots in April and May, you're not going to be playing in June. That's just the reality. And you're not going to be able to hold on to those leads. You can't disappear offensively in the second half. When Draymond comes back, they're going to look much better. They'll look much better defensively. I think they'll be back to being that number 1 defensive team on defense when he comes back. And offensively, they'll have a facilitator. Steph and Clay can run a lot off the ball, get a lot of actions going, working off of screens. Steph can set some screens for people, and you can kind of use that as a decoy to get some back cutters or some backdoor cuts. And I think getting him integrated to play with Clay will help Clay a lot more too in getting his rhythm. He's almost back. It's just a matter of rhythm and getting used to playing with these guys, and he needs Draymond back out there. But you can't just sit on, Draymond's out, and just keep losing games. You can't. I think first seed is out the door, but that's not too big of a deal. You don't need the first seed. I think you're still going to get the second seed in the Western Conference. But when you're in the playoffs, because COVID knocked people out for a while and it affects records of these teams and you have the play-in tournament, you may play the Lakers in the first round. And listen, that might sound like, the Lakers suck. I saw firsthand, very up close and personal, every NBA Finals that they played against Cleveland. Okay, I've been to hundreds and hundreds of Warrior games. Every year I was in high school, The last day of school for me, every single year of high school, was I get out early. I'm going to get food with friends or not, whatever. And then I'm going with my dad to Oracle Arena for game one of the NBA Finals against the Cleveland Cavaliers. That was a tradition for 4 years. When I was in high school, every single last day of school was game one of the NBA Finals. You don't want to see playoff LeBron. You do not want to see playoff LeBron at any point. If you can avoid him, you do. You do so. I don't even care if it came down to, oh my gosh, we need to lose our last regular season game of the year to get a different seed, so we play this team instead. Like, even if it's that, like, you do it. You don't play LeBron. Especially if Anthony Davis is healthy. You don't play LeBron and another guy. LeBron in Cleveland, because LeBron has this weird thing where he saves his energy in the regular season, and when he gets to the playoffs, just goes ballistic. LeBron in Cleveland in 2018 was one of the greatest playoff runs I've ever seen by a player in NBA history or in sports history. He carried a team of nobodies and Kevin Love to the finals, all on his back, and I know that guy is still in there. And if he has Anthony Davis on his team, and if Malik Monk is hitting shots, if Melo's hitting shots off the bench, if Westbrook plays okay, you don't want to play that team if you've developed bad habits. Now, if you've developed bad habits, you're not winning a championship anyways, but you don't want to play that team in the first round is what I'm saying. So that's probably going to be a first-round matchup for second or first seed is my guess. That's my guess. They're going to be a 7 or 8 seed, so it's either going to be the Warriors or the Suns that play them in the first round. Okay? You have to make sure you develop habits because LeBron is not going to have bad habits in the playoffs. He's going to go at you. You don't want to have those habits if you're facing the Memphis Grizzlies, who already seem to have your number and be in your head a little bit. John Morant in your head a little bit. You definitely don't want those habits against the Phoenix Suns if you get to the conference finals. I personally do believe the conference finals will be the Warriors and the Suns. And I think the only team that could knock either of those teams off, it's if the Lakers vastly improve, which is a big if, or the Memphis Grizzlies. That's it. But even then, I think that's a slim chance. I think in a 7-game series, the Warriors and the Suns will see each other. They'll get through whatever teams they have to get to. They'll see each other in the conference finals. That'll probably be a 6 or 7-game series. And it's, I think, just going to be a matter of who's healthier at the time. You know, like the Warriors have not been healthy all year. The really good thing that the Warriors have going for them is you're second in the league and you haven't had a single game with your healthy starting lineup yet. Isn't that crazy? That, like, with the struggles they've had, and it seems like really negative at the time, and I'm going into some criticism now. You're second in the league and you haven't had a single game with your regular starting lineup. Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Draymond, Looney have not played together. It's going to happen when Draymond comes back, probably in a few weeks, I'm guessing. But that's a really good spot to be in. Hopefully Draymond comes back sooner rather than later and gets to, he's able to heal up, because you want to have as much time for Draymond to be back with Clay and for Clay to be back with Draymond, and you want to have that chemistry going, the chemistry flowing. I don't think it'll take long at all for them to fit together. They played together for a long time, but you just want that rhythm, right? So it's a great place to be. But here's the one thing that really, really concerns me beyond everything I just mentioned. And I wanted to really mention how many games I've been to and how many games I've seen. It's really rare if I miss a Warriors game, okay? And when you watch them as much as I have since I was like a 6th or 7th grader, like back when Mark Jackson was still the head coach, you just start to get really good at reading body language with these players. You start to get really good at, like, there are times where Steph Curry's dribbling the ball up the floor and I'm like, I know exactly what he's about to do. And little do you know, that exact thing happens 7 seconds later. I don't even watch the basketball anymore when I watch the Warriors play. I watch everything else going on. I think most people, casual fans, will probably look at who has the basketball. I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at off the ball. I'm looking where everyone's standing on the floor, and I can kind of be like, okay, Wiggins is going to go here and set this screen, and Steph's going to come off this guy, and he's going to pop up here. And if that doesn't work, Clay's going to be over. Like, I can just kind of tell what they're running just when they're starting to walk up the floor. And I can tell when someone is about to shoot. I can tell when someone looks really tired. I can tell when someone's very fired up by something. Like Steph, if you ever see him like get teed up, it's the worst time you have to guard Steph Curry. If you've ever seen Steph Curry at post technical foul, it's the most dangerous version of Steph Curry you can never get for some reason. Like that stuff just really fires him up and just turns him into an automatic cheat code. Klay Thompson, if he hits a few shots in a row, it's weird. It's like no one else knows on the other team, but us watching, we know. Like he's going to get the ball. There's two plays here. It's Klay get the ball to Klay, and he's going to shoot it no matter where he is. Like, I can kind of read body language when I feel like Steph is a little tight, and it usually happens in the playoffs because teams play more physical. I can read body language with Klay as well when he's just trying to force the issue, and it's looking like he's aiming shots more than just letting it fly. And the reason I'm mentioning all that is because Steph Curry's body language is very concerning to me this year. It's very concerning because we're talking about his shooting, right? And what is everyone saying really since December? Oh, he's in a slump. Really? Took him until like February to break out of a slump? Because he's been playing better recently, but it took you like 2 months to get out of a slump. A slump doesn't last that long. It doesn't last that long. And you know what? The reality is there's just something different about him. This is what I was talking about earlier. Instead of being biased players and just, being a fan of a player and trying to be right and instead of just being objective and just taking a step back, why is Westbrook getting trashed every day on NBA Twitter, but Steph Curry is getting the slump pass? It's not a slump. That's just who he is this year. He's shooting a career low from three-point line, not because he's been slumping for this whole season. It's not like it just was happening in this past month. It was just especially bad in the wintertime. That's all. But all year, like even earlier in the season, except for that 50-point game against the Clippers, it felt like, wow, the Warriors, they're in first place. They're on a run. They started out like 10-0. And Steph Curry isn't even playing his best basketball. Last year, he averaged 32. Imagine what happens when Steph plays, gets in the rhythm, and plays at the level he's capable of. That's never shown up on a consistent level this year. It's never shown up. That's not a slump. He's just a different player this year. I don't know if it's maybe the rule changes affected him or what, but he's different. I've never seen Steph Curry airball more than this in a season. I've never seen it. Maybe I'm tripping a little bit and he's just missing so many more shots this year that the air balls just feel like they keep happening more often. But personally, I don't know if there's a way I can get a stat on this. I don't feel like I've seen Steph Curry airball this much. He airballs a lot. And I've seen him actually miss some shots left. I've seen him miss some shots right. Those aren't even accurate misses. This is a dude who practices in a way where if the ball touches the rim at all, but it goes in, they still count it as a miss. And this dude's missing left and right. That does not make sense. I don't know if it's, the legs are starting to go. He is in his 30s. He played in 5 straight NBA finals. He's had ankle injuries that hobbed him earlier in the year. He's never been the most athletic guy. I don't know if it's that or what, but something looks different. Something looks like, I don't know, when I'm watching him shoot, I just feel like I'm expecting him to miss now a lot. And that just never used to happen. It just never used to happen. And the Houston game, like, it feels like it takes something for him to tap into that level. That Houston game, it was Kevin Porter Jr. talking smack. And the second I saw that, I was watching the game with my mom and dad. And the second I saw that, I was like, oh, you see what this guy's doing right here? And I was like, that's going to be a mistake. I was looking at that, I was like, that is going to be a mistake. That's one of the things that just gets Steph going is when someone does that, especially when he knows that they're a much worse player than him for some reason. Like, that's another thing. He won't, like, start barking back. He'll just look like he's taking it and then all of a sudden come down the floor and just hit, like, 3 step backs on you. It's just, Like, remember Paul George in the game when he got 50 earlier this year was like, I'm from the logo with it. Steph Curry runs on the floor, shoots a half court jumper in Paul George's face, and it's three. It just can't make that stuff up. I mean, it's just stuff that gets him going, but it hasn't happened on a consistent level. Last year, the dude averaged 32. Last year, the dude had the most insane month of April I've ever seen from a player. And I'm not saying he needs to be at that level, but it just hasn't been consistent. I haven't seen like, oh, Steph Curry has scored 30 points in 6 straight games. Steph Curry has shot, like, remember last year with all the games with 10 3-pointers, Steph Curry has made like 8 plus 3-pointers 3 times in his last 6 games. Those games aren't happening. Every game is he's starting 1 for 5, 1 for 8 from 3, 1 for 7 from 3, 2 for 10, 3 for 14. And then he makes a few threes toward the end of the game to save his percentage a little bit and get his scoring average, which is also much lower than last year. I think it's like around 26. That's not a slump, you guys. That is accept who he is. If Russell Westbrook can have very similar shooting numbers to Steph Curry and he's getting trashed as a bum in LA, we can't look at Steph Curry and say this whole season's a slump. Because then I can say Russell Westbrook's just been in a slump since October. Is that true? I don't think so. I think that's just who Westbrook is. But why do we move the goalposts? Because it's Steph Curry. Because it's a bias. Because we're not being objective. Is Steph Curry in trouble here? Like, no. No. I do think he will bounce back a little bit. I think a lot of it is fatigue, playing a lot without Draymond and Clay, or a combination of either or. Obviously, what I mentioned earlier, playing in the finals 5 straight seasons, that wears on you, especially when he's never been the most athletic guy. He had ankle injuries just earlier in his career that hobbled him. Like, it's not like he's got a body like LeBron, you know what I mean, where you're indestructible. But what needs to happen going forward, other than Draymond coming back and being able to make sure you control the offense in the second half and be consistent, Steph Curry needs to play his best basketball of the year in the playoffs. It's that simple. It sounds easier said than done, but the best basketball Steph Curry plays this year has to be done in the playoffs. He needs to tap into a LeBron level of he's going to activate playoff mode, where you get to the playoffs and you just tap into another level. He needs to be at that point. And when you get to the playoffs, the shots that you get are the mid-range shots. That's the most important shot in the playoffs. That and free throws. 3-pointers, teams don't give up the wide open 3-pointers in the playoffs. They're going to play more physical. You start to get to the conference finals and the finals, they're going to let you get away with more fouls and play even grittier. Teams won't give up the easy ones in the paint. They won't give up the dunks or the layups and the threes. The mid-range is where you can get shots. Steph Curry's not Kevin Durant. He's not going to rise up over someone mid-range. That's why it's going to be tougher, and he needs to play his best basketball in the playoffs. Even though the defense is going to get tighter, even though it's going to get more physical, you need to hit your shots. You can't have your career low shooting percentage in the playoffs too. It should really be like one of your best playoff runs. That's the type of Steph Curry they need. Because listen, you may not need it against the Lakers if you play them. You may not need it against whoever you play in the first 2 rounds. You're going to need it against Phoenix. That I know for certain. Because I was at both games this year when they played in Phoenix. I saw the first one when Steph Curry had, at the time, his worst shooting performance ever. And then he had like 5 more after that were all his worst shooting performance ever, which is why it's not a slump. But then I also saw the Christmas Day game where he went off for a 30-piece. Without Jordan Poole, without Andrew Wiggins, without Clay and Wiseman, of course. I think there was a couple other people missing. That is the Steph Curry you need. That Steph Curry who can light up 30 and just carry you to a win, even if you're shorthanded. That's the guy you need. You need the Steph Curry that played in Houston. You need the Steph Curry that lit up the Clippers. You need that guy to show up. If he's not there, if he's in the playoffs, listen, with as relaxed as defenses might be in the regular season, if you're starting games out constantly, like 1 for 9, 1 for 7, 2 for 11 from 3. What the hell do you think is going to happen in the playoffs when they're allowed to play more physical and get away with fouling you more? I said that kind of weird. When they get away with fouling you more and And when you're not going to get as many calls at the rim anymore either. You're going to get to the paint, but you're not going to get those whistles as much. They let you play more physical. You need to hit your shots. I'm not saying he's choking or anything like that. He's not choking away games. He had a game winner at the buzzer. He's not like playing a completely different style. He's playing the same style. He's just not hitting the shots, and you need to hit those shots when you get to the playoffs. Because when you get to the playoffs and you're in those close games, you need to put the ball in the hands of your best player. And if he wants to prove, he doesn't need to prove it, but to a lot of national media and to a lot of fans out there that are haters, he needs to kind of prove, hey, I didn't need Kevin Durant to save my ass. You can't shoot like this in the playoffs because you're going to lose. You're going to lose to Phoenix if you shoot like that. I'll tell you right now. Unless you get like game 6 Clay every game, you're going to lose in the playoffs. You don't have that Kevin Durant who's a mismatch every single night. You have to go make the plays that put pressure on the other team to the point where they start trying to think, oh, we got to try to outshoot them, and then they just realize they can't. You have to run up the score on them the way that you usually do if you're Steph Curry, or you always have. So that 3-ball, those little 2-minute spurts where you go down up and down the court, and all of a sudden you scored like 9 points. Like that's what Steph Curry does. It's so dangerous, and he's not doing that right now. He does it sometimes, but sometimes isn't good enough. Sometimes isn't good enough when you're trying to win a championship. It's good enough if you're trying to sell tickets. It's good enough if you want to get to the playoffs. But if you're trying to win a championship, it's not going to be enough. Because even past Phoenix, if you're playing Milwaukee or Philly, like that's not going to get it done. So that's what I'm concerned about. Is Steph Curry's body language to me just looks like a guy who's tired. Just looks like a guy who it's actually in his head now that he's missing so many shots. That's what it looks like. Emotionally, he looks like he's a little drained. And I think a large part of that was the whole 3-point record thing, and they were trying to get him to break it that night in Portland, and it was just like every single game, like, is he going to break it? Is today the game he breaks it? And then it was like an event at the Knicks game in Madison Square Garden. Everyone was there because like, oh, he's going to break it. And I think that emotionally drained him and the team a little bit. And that's why his body language to me is just really concerning. So I need to see him after the All-Star break. I need to see him play a stretch of games where he doesn't shoot like complete garbage. I need to see him play, and when I say garbage, I mean like to Steph Curry standards, by the way. I'm not saying he's like a terrible shooter, but like to Steph Curry standards, starting games out a lot of times like 2 for 9 is garbage, okay? It's trash to his standards. I'm sure he would tell you the same thing, okay? But I need to see his body language and how he plays throughout the course of the game. I need to see if he's playing with confidence or if he's playing tight because he feels like he's just missing. Like sometimes he's shooting and it looks like he's still thinking about the last miss. And that's the thing I don't like about Steph Curry sometimes, because I think that those misses just really stay in his mind. And that just affects your whole psyche and your whole, emotional balance when you're playing a game. And when teams are locking up the Warriors and Steph Curry, you gotta understand, they really hurt the feelings of a lot of people in the league and a lot of teams when they got Kevin Durant and just beating the hell out of every single franchise. Teams are going to give you the best effort. They're going to give you the best effort, and they're going to bring an extra level of intensity when they play you. If you don't bring that intensity right back, that's not a good thing, and you're going to start to develop bad habits. Steph Curry knows what it takes to win a title. Draymond Green knows what it takes to win a title. Klay Thompson knows what it takes to win a title. Steve Kerr as well. Andre Iguodala as well. But Jordan Poole doesn't. Gary Payton doesn't. Andrew Wiggins doesn't. You need to make sure you help them develop the good habits by showing up the right way every single time. And I'm not saying he's not doing that. He has one of the best plus minuses you could have. But this team is developing bad habits, and you need to find a way as a leader to stop that. It can't, and the reason I'm saying this is because it can't just be every time Draymond's out, the team plays like shit. You can't do that. Just because a guy's out is not an excuse to, have a complete blunder against Denver when you're winning by like, I think it was like 16 points, maybe 18 points. I don't remember, but you just completely let them come back in that game and just take it from you. hitting a shot, celebrating it to allow Monty Morris to hit the game winner because you left him open. That's the stuff I'm talking about. It shouldn't take Draymond having to give the damn team a speech after they were losing multiple games to try to get their intensity up like he did while he was hurt. You guys got to figure that out on the court. Stop thinking about, oh, Draymond Green's gone. Like, just go figure it out. Figure it out. You got champions on this roster. It doesn't have to all come from Draymond. And that's on Steve Kerr, too. Okay? I think they'll be okay. I'm just saying I'm concerned about Steph Curry's body language because it's not very positive. But let's see what he does after the break. And also, side note here before I wrap this up, Kuminga's going to be so good, man. He's so good. His bounce, his athleticism, the way he looks like he looks forward to playing the biggest names and looking forward to defending them, the way that he just gives you that effort all the way on both ends. Blocking shots, he listened that he needed to be a better rebounder. You can see he's taking initiative. The way he has that spin move going to the basket. And if he's hitting the jump shot and he's hitting the free throws, it's just an extra plus. He's going to get to the line a lot. I really like Jonathan Kuminga a lot, and I think he's going to be really awesome. And that's the type of dude where he's going to get minutes in the playoffs. And I think sometimes when the team feels dead with energy without Draymond there, sometimes I feel like you should just throw Kuminga in the game just to give the team a spark of energy because, one, he plays hard. Two, he makes plays that are explosive, that give you energy. And three, anytime he does anything good, because he's a rookie, all these veterans love it, and it gets them going, and it inspires them a little bit to be like, you know what? Yeah, let's go play. Because sometimes as a veteran who's won championships and you win a lot of games nonstop, sometimes you do get a little bored of the winning. And when you see a rookie who's out there trying to prove himself and he's succeeding, he's making plays, it excites you and it gets you engaged. So sometimes I feel like Kuminga should go into the game just because of that in games where they feel kind of dead. Yeah, that's stuff I want to get into today. So obviously, and it's funny because I said I didn't want episodes to go like an hour long, and I realized I totally lied about that. I just realized that last week it was just not a lot to get into. I just wanted to get it going, and I had to react to a Super Bowl and talk a little bit of Niners stuff. And today I got to go more in depth into a few of the topics I wanted to talk about today. So I'm releasing this one prematurely. I wanted to do this every Monday, but you know what? It worked better in my schedule to record it now and release it today instead. So I'm not sure yet what day I'll do it every single week, but I'll try to get at least one out every week. That's one thing I will promise. I'm still networking with people, still talking to people, and hopefully down the road I can start getting people on this as well. Hear some more voices of other people in the Bay Area covering these teams, and just excited for that. So yeah, thank you all for listening. Of course, I really appreciate it, and make sure if you're listening right now, if you haven't already, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever your platform you're listening to on right now. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and like I said earlier, turn on notifications so that you're up to date on the newest episodes and you get the notification when they drop. I'm also trying to get on a few other platforms too. I just want to expand as much as I can. I'm working on Amazon Music right now, so who knows? Maybe that'll be up by the time this thing actually releases. But I'm still working on that, still expanding. So thank you all for listening, and I really appreciate it. And let me know your thoughts, by the way. If you have me on socials, let me know what you think about some of the stuff I talked about. Let me know if you agree with me. Let me know if you have another take. Let me know if you think I'm batshit crazy about Tom Brady coming to the Niners. I don't know. Let me know. And I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in today.